All right, now we got to ask the question where everybody falls smack on their butt, they lose rapport with the seller, and the conversation goes downhill. What do you want for your property? All right, so let's talk about this. Let's start by just talking about what is rapport. Rapport is a close relationship in which the people or groups are concerned and understand others' feelings or ideas and communicate well. So let's break down what that actually means. Understand each other's feelings or ideas. We've had a conversation and we talked about their timeline. We talked about their feelings towards an agent. We talked about their feelings towards the condition of the property. We talked about their feelings and ideas on their motivation, and we start to understand them. Hey, it's owner. It's a rental. It's vacant. This is reason I don't want to continue experiencing this. And I'm asking questions, but I'm listening, and you do not have to open your mouth in order to communicate very well. For instance, right now, I am instructing. So I am talking to you by looking straight into the camera. I'm talking loud and my posture is strong. Versus if you was communicating back to me, maybe I would lean in and I would just listen. I wouldn't have to actually verbalize my communication. Instead, I can repeat a couple of words. I can give you a stroke, I can repeat, and I can reverse. And that is showing you that I'm truly interested in you and who you are and your problems, and you will want to continue to have a conversation with me. So let's get into this. That's what rapport is. What and how do you communicate what their asking price is? Hey, Steve, thank you so much for, sharing the information and catching me up to speed on, what we're looking at here. But in an ideal situation, how much cash would you just be looking to walk away with after close? Oh, okay. 150,000. Got you. 150,000. Okay. And I'm just curious, when you say 150,000, is that like you're walking away with 150,000 after you pay closing costs, realtor fees if they're involved, concessions and all those things, or is that a different number? Oh, that's your asking price is 150,000. Okay, perfect. So it sounds like though that there's no debt, lien, or any other debts that would have to be paid off. So like you would almost walk away with 150,000 if you could not pay agent fees and closing costs and all that. Am I understanding that right? Okay, awesome. You notice the words that I'm using. Am I understanding that right? Okay, I understand. It sounds like is an auditory word. It feels like that is the emotional, right? That's your touch, right? It feels like I'm communicating to two separate human beings there. It sounds, it feels, it looks, right? All of these words are words that you can use to communicate with different types of people who learn and communicate different ways. And if you notice, it sounds, it looks, it feels. All of these words we use to communicate to other people how we actually learn and understand things the best. Ask yourself, which one of those three words do you use on a daily basis? So let's get into this question. All right, so he just told me 150,000. I did not assume that that's his asking price. Instead, I asked questions. I probed and I clarified. Now, maybe they already given you their price at the very beginning, and now you just have to clarify a little bit more. Hey, earlier when you mentioned that, you're looking to get 150,000 for the property, is that like in your pocket, like after, you pay for all the expenses to actually sell the home? They say yes or no. Clarifying and understanding. If you're having a conversation and it's hard to get the price out of them, the first question right there, in an ideal situation, how much cash would you be looking to walk away with at closing? That's a indirect way of asking, what is your asking price? And by indirectly asking that question, I can clarify. But you really need to understand what closing is. So in real estate transaction, you have a property, you have a seller, and you have a buyer. Once these two people come together, these two parties, and they come to an agreement, there's a contract. That contract is down here at the bottom, right below the house, and this is an exchange, right? The house is currently the seller's, The contract is their agreement and instructions for the attorney or title company to transfer that home to the buyer. So with that, there's a cost to that transference, and asking about what they're actually looking to walk away with after that. There could also be an agent in that party as well, and that agent would be in the middle right up under contract. That agent would actually get a fee for communicating between the buyer and seller. It could be two agents, but they would get a portion of the proceeds, right? So if we buy the property for $150,000, a portion of that would go to those agents. So, and then a portion of that goes to the closing attorney or the title company. And then a portion of that pays off taxes. And then a portion of that, if they list it on the retail market, could actually go to repairs. So there's a lot of expenses that people really don't recognize. If you understand that, you don't have to tell them directly that they don't understand the process. Instead, you ask questions and you plant seeds. So in this conversation, they're planting seeds as we go down. So as we ask question one, they're going to give us some nuggets. We should talk about those nuggets. We should listen, and then we should ask questions. And then as we get down to the bottom, we should have already built up enough rapport where this is not awkward. Because if you directly on the very first question, like, hey, are you looking to sell your house? And if you are, what do you want for it, right? They're just going to spit out a number, and it's going to be the highest number possible, and you have no room to negotiate, right? They don't have any reason to trust you, and they don't know who you are, and you haven't built up that rapport. That's the reason we're asking this question at the very end of it, right? It's our least important question to ask, but yet it's the most important information, and we have to earn the right to do that. So to beat this back into the bush, we built rapport. Maybe at the very beginning of it, they're just like, well, just make me an offer. What's your price? Like, give me an offer. Just come up with it, right? This could sound like a red type personality or a driver. So my personality is a driver. Like, I'm high red personality, which means I take charge. I get things done and I make decisions very quickly. I don't want to stay on the phone with you. I don't care about your kids or your dog, right? I just want to get down to business, and I want to get on to my life because you don't mean anything to me. And when I say that very harsh, but like there's the opposite of that, which is a yellow personality. Yellow people like to talk. They like stories. This is the people that you'll be on the phone with for 10, 20 minutes and you accomplish nothing because they're just talking, and you have to learn how to politely interrupt them and continue the conversation with a purpose. And we'll talk about more of that later. Drivers, if they're just like, hey, give me your offer, you can just say, hey, listen, obviously I don't want to disrespect, my time or your time, Steve, because I know we're both very busy. It sounds like you already got a price in mind. I mean, just be honest with me. I mean, right, where do I need to be at for you to consider my offer, right? And you're communicating this to them. Now, as I say this, these are not lines that you need to write down and you need to regurgitate word for word. Again, this is a framework. So all of this, I'm teaching you actual sales. I'm not teaching you to read the script. And every time you get down to the bottom of this, question 4, you say, hey, even though you already told me that you want $220,050 for your property, Steve, in an ideal situation, how much cash would you be looking to walk away with at closing? Have you had a chance to think about your asking price? Like, you can't do that, because if you do that, you're not listening. And because you're not listening, you're going to lose rapport. So it's very important for you to listen and communicate very well. And whenever you get down to this portion and you already talked about price, you can talk about it again, and that's perfectly fine, because hopefully you built rapport as you came down this conversation. If you notice, it's a timeline. So because you're creating this timeline with this person, your rapport is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. At the bottom of this timeline, you can ask harder and better questions. Hey, Steve, I know at the beginning of this conversation, you said in order for us to make a deal, we need to be at $220.50. I'm just curious. It sounds like this property, like you're walking away with $220.50 after closing, for sure. For the most part, you can just ask it again in a different phrase, a different way, and have them restate it, because they might come back and be like, well, listen, Eric, I like you. We've had a good conversation. I'll be honest with you. I need $220 for it, but if you can give me $210 for it today, we can move forward. There's a little negotiation in there. You should probably be able to relate to this, right? Having conversations in the past where you get a price for somebody and then you talk with them a little bit or over a period of time, and then all of a sudden that price changes. It's because you built rapport, you built trust. So that's price in a nutshell. This is definitely the most important thing that we need as a business to make a decision. It is very important that you know and understand how to get the price from the seller. But the last thing I want you to do is be on the phone and think that you have to get the price. The price can come later in more conversations down the road. If they are a lead and you disqualified everything, they don't want to list it with an agent. They need to sell pretty soon. They don't want to rent it out. They don't want to continue living in it. They don't want to fix up the property and make all the repairs. If you're disqualifying like this is a lead. Price, we can figure that out later. I hope that makes it digestible for you, for understanding what a lead actually is. Because a lot of people get on the phone and all they do, they act like a driver and they just get the price and they move on and make that a lead. That's not a lead. We got to disqualify and we got to get their timeline. We got to figure out why they don't just list it with an agent. We got to figure out why they don't just rent it out and make money. We got to figure out why they do not continue to live there. We got to figure all these things out. And the only way you can do that is to have a conversation with somebody and listen majority of the time and ask really good questions every time they drop nuggets.